In the year 1995, in a little-known country called Japan, a manga artist named Yasuhiro Nightow had his new manga series serialized in Monthly Shonen Captain. This series, as the title of the video may allude, was Trigun. Trigun is an action anime with a space western theme, which was common back then. There was a lot of these. But it stood the test of time, becoming a classic and an iconic manga and anime that people to this day love. It also got a weird reboot in the past few years, but let's not get into that too much because of my seething and useless rage that would seep through the script. Trigun stars the iconic Vash the Stampede, an alien man-thing gunman who has the power to be the single most deadly thing on the planet, Gunsmoke. But despite his deadly raw power, he values life so much he refuses to kill anything, leading him to have to handle most situations in an unconventional and silly way. Joined by his 3 unlikely friends, 2 insurance agents, and a priest, all of which are also gunmen and gunwomen, they must rise up against rising insurance costs and Vash's evil brother Knives, who, unlike Vash, doesn't value life at all. So basically, yeah, it's peak, it's fire. Its anime has the single loudest eye-catcher sound effect that you have ever heard. And it never gets easier to listen to no matter how many times you've watched the anime. So why am I talking about Trigun when this video is about something called Gungrave? Well, while Trigun was well into its publication, Nightow would play a very important role in the creation of a video game and anime series called Gungrave. Not only does it look like Trigun, it's basically Trigun's exact same vibes, but without the comedy, leading this series to be more or less Trigun's messy sibling. See what I said? See what I did there? The title drop? Yeah. Gungrave is such an interesting case of a series because yes, it has an anime, and yes, a super famous manga author was involved in making it, but it's a video game series first and foremost. And after like the first entry, the series so quickly escapes the confines of its Nightow roots and ends up with character designs like these. Oh, this one is bad, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it in the future, don't worry. And it takes a hot second to get there. It's pretty good until this. Gungrave, at its core, is basically about Vash the Stampede's bizarro counterpart, Brandon Heat / Beyond the Grave. Yes, that's really his name. First name Beyond, middle name The. While Vash is an alien thingy with a heart of gold who never stops talking and making jokes, who avoids violence as much as he possibly can and refuses to kill ever, despite his raw power. Brandon Heat, on the other hand, is an undead, selectively mute mobster whose first and only instinct is to kill everyone and thing that enters his line of sight. I just really love that these two back-to-back creations by the same guy are just complete opposites of each other. Because Vash's no-kill rule is written into the story as basically an absolute good and a virtue that Vash is right for having. Meanwhile, again, Brandon Lukewarm over here is just deadheading every single person who dares to threaten his dead girlfriend's husband's child. And in this story, he is also right to do so. Gungrave as a series consists of 1 anime that acts as the backstory, and unfortunately a little more than that, and 3 video games. 2 are for the PlayStation, and 1 came out years later, made by completely different people, and it's weird. I'm gonna do what I always do and break these up into multiple parts, and then there will be a break in the middle where I shill my R, and there will be an unceremonious and abrupt ending to the video as always. So let's get this all started. Okay, so yes, theoretically, the anime is the chronological start of the series, but you'll see why I'm starting with the first game in a bit. Gungrave 1 is probably the most simple game since Tennis for 2 for the analog computer. You run, you gun, you can dodge leap, you can swing your coffin as a melee attack, you build up points to fill your special attack bar, you then fire your special attack, or you can use that attack bar meter to heal yourself, and that is it. You blast your way through some of the coolest set pieces on the PS2 that are entirely 3D and not, pre-rendered paintings filled with gang members, and eventually you encounter a boss. This entire core gameplay loop is so simple, you can make this shit in cat scratch, but it lends to the game perfectly because it is so comically short. If this game were any longer than like 2 hours at most, its gameplay would get old so fast. But it's so short that it never outstays its welcome. Seriously guys, I really like Gungrave 1. All the other games, everything else in this series has its problems. Gungrave 1 is just straight fire, and you need to play it. Anyway, like I said previously, you play as a former gangster named Brandon Heat, who's now been revived with a mysterious technology that also gave him superhuman abilities by a very helpful but very mournful doctor. You and Dr. T, the guy who brought you back, are set out to protect the daughter of the woman Brandon Heat loved when he was alive. Brandon, now going by the moniker Beyond the Grave, is also now a cowboy for some reason, but do not worry about it because it goes hard. Brandon must fight through the armies of goons that his former friends, co-workers, and just blood brother are sending after him. Each boss in the game is a former friend or associate who turned on Brandon after he refused to help them kill their former kingpin boss, Big Daddy. After betraying Brandon, of course, they took over the organization that Big Daddy was running and killed him. After encountering hordes and hordes of normal gangsters, you come to blow with each ex-compatriot of Brandon, who all turn into big fucking monsters when you fight them, showing off that your former friends who now run the city aren't just evil, but also used an equally fucked up and equally mysterious technology as what brought back Brandon to life to turn themselves into these monstrous powerhouses. All of which make a lot of sense. You know, they have the fat guy, Bob Poundmax, turn into a big blob man who can shoot monsters out of his own flesh. But what I never understood is why the samurai guy, who first turns into like a robot samurai guy with multiple arms and some guns, then turns into a giant car-themed robot with a big wheel. I have no idea why he does that, but he does that. Anyway, the evil organization in this, Millennium, is after Brandon's ex's daughter because she is the daughter of Big Daddy, the former boss that Brandon refused to turn on. This all culminates in a boss fight with the extremely giant and weird twisted remains of Big Daddy that Brandon's blood brother, Harry McDowell, who is the man in charge now, and is the man that killed Brandon in that elevator all those years ago, is controlling, and then you shoot Harry, who never became a monster on the outside because he always was one on the inside. I really like that part, that Harry never became a monster. Harry never took the weird mysterious technology that turns them into all this shit. He made his subordinates become monsters, he made monster soldiers, but him, he just wanted to rule over them. And when all is said and done, you literally ride off into the sunset with your not daughter. Was that a lot to take in? Yeah, well, that's what it's like to play the game, because again, this is only 2 hours at max, basically, unless you're really bad at it. The main draw of Gungrave is the gameplay, and for me, the vibes. The art style of Nightow is incredibly well translated into these PS2 models, and they look so good in these animated cutscenes the game has. These cutscenes have an almost dreamlike quality to them. Really harsh lighting and really dark shadows. It makes everything feel very ethereal, very magical. And the locales you storm your way through, like I said again, are some of the coolest on the PS2 that, you know, again, aren't pre-rendered paintings. Particularly the Chinatown level where you fight through, surprisingly, Chinatown. The game also comes with one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard, especially for such a hidden gem of a game. I've used these songs in a metric shit ton of the videos on my channel. I've been doing it for, I don't know, well over a year now at least. Who knew then? Jazzy big band music pairs so well with sci-fi supernatural gang violence here. All these aspects of the game pair so well together to give such a definitive Nightow experience. It feels like something that should be put right up there with Trigun, even if this was the only part of the series that existed. I think the perfect example, the culmination of all the aspects of this game is the final level, the tower. This entire game, you're blasting through mostly normal people, coming to blows with weird monsters on occasion, like with the bosses, but for 99% of the game, it's just gangsters and goons. That is until the tower, where you head up to the top of Millennium's HQ. At the top, the jazzy, loud, crazy soundtrack just hard stops. The game is now just playing the sound of wind blowing. The geometry and level design of the area is almost abstract. You're going up stairs that appear out of nowhere, and you're no longer fighting gang members, but instead these weird, faceless, sexless naked monsters that are birthed out of these weird floating egg sacs. It is extremely weird and unnerving, but, you know, still cool the first time around due to the insane juxtaposition. It also shows to you without saying anything that whatever supernatural technology Harry is using to keep himself at the top of the world is far, far, far from anything natural, and yet Harry stands at the top of it all, a normal man ruling over abominations, and when all is said and done, two brothers who wanted to climb to the very top of the world together are standing right where they always wanted to be. And the game makes you pull the trigger on Harry and shoot him to end cutscene. It's just cinema, dude. Although I suppose it's not. That kind of ending is only found in video games. The story of Gungrave 1 is so short and purposefully leaves a ton of shit ambiguous, but it's still good. Like in Gungrave 1, just the first one, we have no idea where all this evil, weird monster technology came from. Brandon and Harry seemingly lived normal lives in a fairly normal world until Brandon was killed for not betraying Big Daddy, and then suddenly Harry fucking McDowell is now the king of the monster factory. But all of it still works out for a strange, short little mystery paired with simple but super fun gameplay with amazing style. Speaking of style though, this game and the series itself is considered a character action game, which is already a shitty and nebulous name fans invented to group all these games together. This doesn't hold much weight right now, but it will later as the series changes. So let's get on to Gungrave's anime and see where this story takes its first weird steps that make it Trigun's messy sibling. In 2004, just 2 years after Gungrave 1 came out, both the sequel to the game and the Gungrave anime would come out with tie-ins to each other, both plot-wise and just straight up having a preview for the anime on the home screen of Gungrave 2. Gungrave's anime serves as a prequel backstory. It follows the story of Harry and Brandon going from random street rat teenagers to high-ranking members of the mob. We, the viewers, are finally given more insight into those little snippets of backstory we got in the game. We get to see everything from the start of Harry and Brandon's adventures to the betrayal where Harry gunned down Brandon in an elevator. We get to see Brandon fall in love with Maria, who would later have a kid with Brandon's boss Big Daddy, and then Brandon would protect that kid in every subsequent game. We also get to see Harry's love life. We get to see Harry fall in love and marry Sherry Walken, who he meets when she's like a young teenager, probably like 13 at most, and he's a whole ass adult, and then he immediately starts grooming, courting her right then and there at the Mafia function. Brandon, bro, you just let that happen? What the fuck, dude? The anime does a pretty good job as a backstory for the first game. It aligns with everything we saw pretty well, and you actually get an explanation for the stuff we didn't get anything for. Who are all these bosses from the first game? All we know is that they work for Harry, and they can turn into monsters, and they knew Brandon. Well, the anime explains that they were their close allies and friends. At one point, Bob Poundmax even used to be skinny. Bunji, a boss who served as a sort of Virgil-esque boss fight in the first game, was an assassin turned ally who became like a younger brother figure to Brandon, which is why he's Brandon's rival, the Virgil to his Dante, because Brandon is just always better than him. Bear Walken, the dude who turned into a giant fucking car monster for some reason, was at one point Brandon Harry's superior, and yet in the end, Harry marries his daughter, so he sticks by Harry through all of the plans to take over Millennium and to use weird, fucked up, mindless monsters as fodder, and to turn all the high-ranking members into weird, fucked up monsters, but, you know, kept all their brains together. Anyway, we get to see how Big Daddy ran the organization, why Brandon was so loyal to him, and how he's only slightly less creepy than Brandon, because he marries Maria after basically raising her for a good handful of years, and has her kid. But hey, whatever, you know, hey, if Brandon trusts him, we gotta assume he's like not Woody Allen. But man, why is this such a trend in this series? Brandon, you are a terrible judge of character, dude. In the anime, we also get to see how these weird-ass monsters and shit came to be outside of Dr. T alluding to it in the first game with his involvement. We find out the big mindless monsters are Orgmen, and the people given powers are called superiors. This all happens because of a drug called Seed. Millennium kind of just like stumbles their way into the Seed by going up against a rival gang who was already working on it, and then Brandon and company just end up seeing the first-hand power of it when they have to fight Blanca. The funny thing is, outside of the beginning of episode 1 where it starts at the start of Gungrave 1, the anime up until the seed is introduced is very normal. Outside of a few, blink and you'll miss it minor things that make the world seem a little less than normal, the story is played completely like a grounded crime drama with nothing extra going on, which makes the introduction of Seed really stand out. I mean, until then, these characters haven't seen or done anything crazier than, like, murder, and then boom, Orgmen. I think this is where it starts to get a little messy. The way it's written in the anime makes it feel as if Seed is something created by the scientists working for the rival gang. And while they don't say it outright, this is also heavily implied to be the thing that turned Brandon into a dead man / necrolyzer. A dead man or necrolyzer being made with Seed, sounds right on paper, I guess. The later games would have you believe otherwise. Although we're never given a clear answer on how that works either, just not at all. We never actually know what they have to specifically do to make a dead man. Brandon's hair is also white for some reason when he comes back from the dead, which is another reason I think it's implied that the dead men are made with Seed in this, because hair being white or skin being white or something about them being white is a common theme with Seed-related creatures. This also comes with the problem of aligning this with the games, because Mr. Beyond the Grave here has pretty noticeable black hair in the games. The anime is overall pretty good. It's very, very slow for the first couple episodes, but once you're into it, once you're past the first time skip, the show really picks up. Speaking of time skips, the show uses them greatly to help us feel a lot more connected to the cast. When we first meet Harry and Brandon, they're both like 18, and by the time Brandon dies, they're almost 30. Overall, the show is pretty standard late 90s, early 2000s anime affair, so melancholy, dry, and very, very quiet at times. I've never seen people actually talk about that, but if you go back and watch like late 90s and early 2000s anime, everything was very depressing at times. Even like comedy anime, straight comedy anime, would often have like an episode that's just very melancholy, dry, and quiet. Look, go look back. Trust me, I'm not crazy. I think all the characters' backstories greatly add to the story. Harry is a great villain, plus his dub voice is Tony Oliver, and that's always good. This is when the series most feels like a sibling to Trigun. Its vibes are very similar. So if you've ever thought, hey, what if Trigun was about the mob, you should watch the Gungrave anime. There is, however, a major elephant in the room I've been ignoring this entire time that damages it heavily in my books, and only adds to the messiness of this series. Remember how I said the anime starts at the beginning of the first game and then flashbacks to the backstory of the characters? Well, it also ends with the first game too. I guess having the anime end with Brandon dying at the hands of his best friend blood brother thing, and then saying, hey, go out and buy the game and play it to see the rest of the story, would have rubbed some viewers the wrong way, which is fair, I suppose, but man, what they did instead is not much better. Instead, like the last 9 episodes of the series are an adaptation of Gungrave 1, and it's not good. No. They make a lot of really weird choices, like giving Brandon and Mika, the daughter of Big Daddy and Maria, a lot of downtime, when in the game, it's just straight action, and then Brandon resting at the hideout, which is important because Brandon needs to do this to get put on a dialysis machine to live. But instead, the anime has a lot of them farting around and bonding, which isn't a terrible idea, but I think the near constant fighting Brandon had to deal with is kind of a part of the story of Gungrave 1, that there was no rest, it was just combat until it was over. Like, he didn't need to get bonding time with Mika, he was just willing to defend her with his life because that's the daughter of Maria. In my opinion, the biggest sin this part of the anime commits is that Brandon fucking talks. Brandon was always a quiet guy, that was like his thing. He didn't say much, and then he has these deep internal monologues that we get to see in the first part of the anime. But in the game, he says nothing after he comes back as Beyond the Grave. He's silent no matter how much crazy shit is going on. Even when he enters big angry mode in Gungrave 2, he doesn't say anything. But in this anime, he's just slightly less talkative than before. Plus, he runs into characters like Bunji before their fight in the game. The end half of Gungrave's anime just does not work and can't be slid in as canon along with the game. But the first half is definitely supposed to be the real backstory to Gungrave, because characters first introduced in the anime come back in later games. So we have like this half canon and half not canon anime to pair with a video game series that's about to get a lot more weird and less coherent. That being said, if you're going to take the Gungrave dip, you should watch the anime. You should either end it right after Brandon is woken back up, or just disregard the second half and enjoy it nonetheless. Either way, the first part of the anime is very good. Now, let's talk about something from Gungrave I have more mixed feelings on than anything else in the series, Gungrave 2. So here we are with Gungrave 2, its actual title being Gungrave Overdose or Gungrave OD depending on the area. Gungrave Overdose is probably the most popular one. These metrics are really hard to grasp on a series that no one cares about. It's also the direct sequel to the first game. This game is Gungrave but more, but that doesn't necessarily mean all of its additions are amazing. We have more story, more characters, more playable characters, more bosses, much more voice acting, and more attacks. The game also has an English dub, which the previous one did not. This game is easily double, if not like triple the length of the first game, and is really unnecessarily annoyingly hard and tedious at times. Like, Jesus Christ, these boss fights are insane and unnecessary at times. Like I said before, this series is considered a character action game series, which is a nebulous genre that is comprised almost entirely of games only related to each other based on vibes. So yeah, you know, like the term boomer shooter, if you're more familiar with that. This genre contains games like Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, Ninja Gaiden, God Hand, Hi-Fi Rush, possibly God of War, depending on who you ask, and of course, and most notably, Nightmare Before Christmas, Oogie's Revenge. But as the series goes on, it gets more and more character action-y, and it starts with this one. This game introduces a parry mechanic, unlockable characters with different movesets, more special moves, and even the ability to block, as well as the movement speed is increased in general. Like I said, it's Gungrave 1 but more. The two biggest changes in this game are the much more in-depth story and characters, and you may have already noticed it, but Grave's outfit is also different. Yeah, for some reason, Grave gets a new outfit each game, but every subsequent outfit is nowhere near as good as the first one. I mean, they took away his coat and cowboy hat, and now he's just some dude in a big suit. Sure, fine, whatever. This game, we are introduced to 3 new characters who will be a part of our gang for the duration of the story. We have our man, or well, our boy in the seat kind of character, Spike Hubie, which is just the most character-sounding name ever. He's a little science dude who's acting like a pseudo little brother figure to Mika, who has a much larger role and is no longer just a damsel in distress. Then we have Juji Kabane, who is a dead man like Grave, but is also part seed as well. Is also Bunji's brother, apparently. He's a bit of a stick in the mud and doesn't like having to work with Grave and company because he really hates Spike Hubie. Ryuji's partner in crime, who also joins Grave and his super friends, is the legend, the iconic Rocket Billy Red Cadillac. A man who is just dead, but is not a dead man. He's just a ghost for some reason. He's just a ghost. Okay. Just by looking at his design, you can already see he's Juji's better half, laid back, fun-loving, and much more willing to work with Grave. So now that we have our cast, we can sit through 3,000 hours of these Persona-ass cutscenes because they didn't want to animate all of this. So yeah, unfortunately we don't get all of this dialogue with the cool cutscenes from the first game, although those cutscenes still exist. But yeah, mostly it's just a lot of this, just a lot of PNGs. So what do our band of new friends go through in this game? Well, let me tell you, it is a whole ass saga. A while after Grave and Mika ride off into the sunset after destroying Harry McDowell and his gang, a new organization appears using even more seed than before. Corleone family are the new hotness in the organized crime underworld. They picked up all of the pieces Millennium left behind and are now using it to expand even faster than ever. Unlike Millennium, who used mostly gang members as their army, only having some orgmen as heavy hitters and having their upper crust turn into superiors, Corleone family's army is mostly just seed monsters. Superiors, orgmen, seedmen, and anything in between. Hell, there are even 3 dead men, 3 necrolizers in their ranks. Harry McDowell had 0. These necrolizers are Sherry McDowell, Harry's wife, who died in the anime and is now back as a dead man and is dying to get revenge on Grave for, you know, killing Harry. This new organization somehow resurrected Bunji back into a half dead man, half seed monster man. And thirdly, there is their own original original dead man, who apparently is the strongest of them all, named Fangoram. And he like uses a big sister gun to Grave's twin handguns. They also somehow scooped up the corpses of the superior bosses from the previous game and combined them all into one giant monster. And now Bob Poundmax's entire body is basically a giant testicle. So yeah, the Corsione family scraped up literally everything they could get out of the Husk of Millennium, even the dead bodies. Grave and Co. all hate Seed for their own reasons and are setting out to destroy this new threat from the bottom up. Apparently, Yuji and Rockabilly are always off-screen helping Grave, but never actually while you play because, you know, fuck you. Zero assistance. You will do this work yourself. So they barrel through various compounds, too many compounds of this mafia, beating up their whole ass army, including literal tanks and helicopters. You go up against Sherry, and then you kill her. You go up against Bunji, and then you kill him. And then they hype up this dickhead Fangoram, who again has this related weapon to Grave's pistols, but has no deeper connection to him than that. And then you kill him. And at some point, I don't remember where it falls in between all of those, you run into a normal band of mercenaries who are led by this Helsing-looking dickhead who specializes in killing dead men. His name is Zell, by the way. And I guess that means there are a lot of them. Does that matter? Is that ever brought up again? No, of course not. There's enough dead men in the unorganized crime world to justify an entire paramilitary organization dedicated to killing them for money, but whatever. Doesn't matter, I guess. After all this mess, the son of the leader of the Corsione family betrays his father because he was adopted and takes over the gang and reveals he's been behind everything and even had involvement in the events of the first game. Ooh. He's basically behind the entire world's seed supply or something. He's been pulling the strings from the shadow the whole time. The big reveal here is that Seed, the drug, the compound, the whatever that has been driving the series up until this point, comes from aliens who want to take over the world. Comes from aliens who want to take over Earth. And so they want people to be infected by Seed. So they made a deal with this little rich guy to sell people Seed so the world would be more alien-like for them. That's the big reveal. This is certainly an explanation for Seed, definitely a writing choice. Now, why did he do this? Why did he sell out humanity and cause all this violence for Seed, for aliens? Because he was bored. He was so bored. He was so bored because he was so unbelievably rich that he wanted the aliens to give him a spaceship to fly around the universe because he was so bored. Also, Spike Hubie is revealed to have been a failed clone of the main bad guy this entire time, and he made him because he was bored. Also, Mika got infected with Seed and has slowly been turning into a Seed woman. This clock is ticking, and this leaves Grave to enter the most bullshit boss fight I've ever seen in any video game. I'm gonna play some of the boss fight right here, sped up probably. This is insanity. Genuinely the worst boss fight in the world. Looking up a guide will not save you during this. It's just beating your head against a brick wall till something happens. Grave also unlocks his Devil Trigger Rage mode, which looks really goofy when he does it. So anyway, they kill the bad guy. Spike dies because nobody likes him. Mika is cured because the villain was so bored, and the boyfriends ride off into the sunset. The end. Yeah, that is it. That is sure was a story, yes sir. So what do I think of Gungrave Overdose? Well, it's good, but man, does it have a lot of problems. To start with the gameplay. The game is just ass hard. Not being able to heal by simply using your special attack charge really makes this game so much harder. Demolition shots are the special attack, and in the first game, you just unlock them through progressing through the story. You unlock your final one by beating the game. They changed that to where you need to kill a certain amount of enemies with a demolition shot to unlock the next demolition shot. But also, you need to kill a certain amount of enemies to upgrade a demolition shot. So basically, you're not going to unlock half of them in one playthrough, and it's just really tedious to upgrade them at all. The levels are also way longer to a tedious degree, many of which are filled with bullet sponge enemies and a lot of special enemies that are just there to deliberately annoy you. The boss battles in this game are easily some of the most insane ones I've dealt with. I'd rather go toe-to-toe with Melania on New Game Plus 50 in Elden Ring with just my fists than redo some of these boss fights. Sometimes it's not even the boss battle. It's just an awful scenario like this one part where you're trapped on a roof and they send wave and wave and wave of various swordsmen who can, block your shots at you, and it's just awful. And I'm playing a video right here. It is the worst part of the game, because you're not allowed to leave this area till they've decided you're allowed to leave. The game is way longer than it needs to be because I guess they really wanted you to get your best bang for your buck, because also after you play through the entire game, you unlock Rockabilly and Juji, who have their own moveset and their own set of unlockable and upgradable special attacks, who both you have to, do the same thing where you kill a certain amount of enemies to unlock the next one or upgrade the current one. I also think that there's a few more hidden characters, but it's so hard to find any information on this series because it's so poorly documented. I'll read some shit on a 17-year-old guide and I have basically no way to verify it than to put another 10,000 hours in Overdose and find out myself. Like, I'm seeing some stuff where it says you can play as the final boss, but he's just a reskin of Rockabilly. I have no footage of this, no evidence that this even exists. Maybe it does. I don't know. The story is fine, but like the campaign could have and should have probably been way shorter like the first game. The writing, also, while good and fine and dandy, doesn't have that same Trigun vibe that the first game did. Feels a lot more like a goofier Cowboy Bebop than a less goofy Trigun, if you get my inane ramblings at this point. The inclusion of aliens is a strange choice. I don't hate it, but I think it's weird because they make it seem as if the main villain of this game and the aliens are the reason why Millennium in the first game had the seed, which is just not the case because the anime, but yeah, sure, whatever. Nightow was still on board with this game, so characters like Juji look right, but some of the enemies just look a little out of place, like the first boss of the game and some of the org men. Really weird, although any art style inconsistency pales in comparison to what's going to happen in the next game. Do I recommend you play it? Yeah, of course. Just please play it on easy for the first time, unless being hurt gets you off. Please. Just take my word for it. If this game was a bit shorter and a lot less bullshit at times, it could be the best game in the series, but it falls short of the first one for me. Hey, the soundtrack is still really great, so no problem there at least. I think I've all but covered it. Characters good, story okay, gameplay fun, but ass hard. So let's talk about the next game, the Jump the Shark for this series and where it is currently staying for at least the next, 1,000 years. Okay, first off, like I said, there are these awful VR games, but they're terrible. Like, dude, the Steam page trailer has, like, free green screen explosion asset in it. Nostalgia critic level editing right here. Just know they fought off some more seed and Grave is wearing his hat again for some reason, and it acts as a sort of prologue to the real next game. But man, I just hate these games on principle. Editor, throw up some of the gameplay on this screen. I mean, just look at it. Even the history rundown cutscene to get the player caught up with the third game ignores these games. So we're gonna skip over it too. In the year 2022, Gungrave G.O.R.E came out. The weirdest and kind of sometimes the hardest to research game at times, not all the time. This game is available on Steam right now for you to play, and it's got players, it's got reviews, but no one is talking about it. I mean, it's a direct sequel to a game from 2004 that was already obscure, so, that makes sense. But I still feel like some people should be talking about this. The game is pretty good and kinda bad. I don't hate it, but dear God, this is probably where the series ends, and I really hope it isn't. We got no art direction. We got terrible character designs. Nightow is officially gone from the series. The link has been severed despite the fact that he was supposed to be here originally. They replaced the dude whose whole vibe is the reason why this series even matters a little. We have characters inexplicably returning from the dead. Grave finally speaks. And we even got a trailer with a dude doing his best Steve Blum impression and more. Gungrave G.O.R.E takes place a long time after Gungrave Overdose. Mika and Grave, along with a new scientist who is basically a non-depressed version of Dr. T from the first game, and another agent named Quartz, who is certainly a character that exists, all now lead an anti-seed paramilitary organization, which, makes sense considering what they've been through. Grave and Mika's new organization now are going up against a new major gang called the Raven Clan, who of course is using seed to assert their dominance over a place in Southeast Asia called Scumland. The Raven Clan again is run by the fucking Felonious Four over here, a Watch Dogs character, Mr. Burns, a textbook example of the femme fatale and fucking Kingpin. Unfortunately, Mika is out of commission for this game, so Quartz is in your ear the whole time, like how Mika was in Overdose. Mika is down and out, because remember when she was infected by Seed in the last game and then got an antidote? Well, yeah, apparently that doesn't matter. She's still infected. Because, you know, why not? And it's spreading fast. She's like naked and covered in crystals and shit for some reason. And poor Grave, who's literally just her dad at that point, has to see all this. So Grave again has to barrel through hordes and hordes of gang members and org men and the like, and kill them all to defeat the bosses at the top and stop the Seed and find a way to save Mika. But while doing all of this, a familiar face reappears. Bunji is back for some reason, somehow. He's sort of just half helping, half hindering Grave because, well, he's Bunji and that's what he does. He's been revived again and is somehow better than before. In Overdose, when he was a dead man, he was, while very powerful, kind of just a giant walking corpse. He was covered in bandages and acted a lot more like Grave and Fangaram. But again, now after dying twice, he's like better than he was before. In the first game, he was like sad and all that. He's not even sad. He's chipper. He's cool and he's chilling. This is Bunji from like the anime. So after fighting off all the leaders of the Raven clan, we are met with the real villain behind everything. Yes, yes. We meet Who Knows Who is really his name. Who Knows Who is a very mysterious being who's called a failed god, basically. The game leaves what he is vague. He might be like the most seeded up person in existence, or possibly he's a member of the alien race that Seed comes from. It's all very vague and weird. He's described as a depraved being whose attempts at transcendence turned out futile. To fulfill his ultimate purpose, even death shall be undone. Whatever that means. I really don't know. I'm like 90% sure he's an alien, seeing as his base is called an alien ship, but then again, so was the villain of the last game, so who knows? Whatever he is, he wants to cover the entire world in his Seed. Yeah, this guy has no need for organized crime. The Raven clan were just tools to him. So Who Knows Who throws Mika into a pod so he can use her to seed the entire world, because she is just so seeded up. Her seeding powers can seed so much seed that the Seed will seed. Grave dies or something while fighting Who Knows Who, and then Bunji comes in for the rescue and frees Mika, and then this cutscene gets really good looking for some reason. I really have no idea why suddenly all the budget goes into like this part of the cutscene. While Bunji is getting his ass kicked by an alien, the mostly naked Mika, crying over her dead father, has a teardrop fall into his mouth, which brings him back to life, and for a fucking moment, his hair turns white like the anime, but then when the cutscene ends, it's black again. So does anything even matter? I don't know. Also, Grave finally speaks. He says his name is Brandon Heat. Anyway, him and Bunji and Zell, the anti-dead man paramilitary dude from the last game, all gang up on Who Knows Who and kill his ass. Like, it's just that he's dead. He's gone. Right, I forgot to mention that way earlier in the game, Zell shows back up, and you guys recruit him so easily. You kick his shit in again, and you say, Zell, the Raven clan who hired you was using Seed, and Zell goes, oh shit, Seed? Man, really? Like, they're doing Seed again? I'm not, I'm working for you. Fine, whatever. You convinced me. Fuck this shit. I hate Seed. It's really that simple. Anyway, the base blows up. They escape and ride away. Well, Bunji doesn't escape. He gets caught in the blast, but just thugs that shit out so he can aura farm in the rubble. The game ends on what is so clearly set up for a sequel, but also it's like kind of dark, unlike the last two, where the characters literally ride off into the sunset. The places, the areas, and the populace that got seeded aren't just magically fixed. They're stuck like that for the foreseeable future, and it's up to Mika and Grave's organization to someday fix that. Mika is never cured of the Seed, but she thinks she might be able to control it, but is still worried about the whole thing and just sort of cries a mix of relief and sadness into Grave's arms as Quartz, our narrator, pulls us out, saying the day is saved, but the war isn't over yet. So with the story out of the way, what about the game itself? Well, it's such a mixed bag. It's actually hard to keep track of everything that's going on in the game. Like I said before, this series is a character action game, and this game is definitely the most like that. This came out after DMC 5, and it shows. You now have even more demolition shots, ways to heal, charged shots, this weird other third kind of shot. The parrying is back. The devil trigger is here throughout the game, unlike the last game where you had it just for the final boss, all of which are upgradable. There's new attacks. You can even buy rage mode and health upgrades, and there's even a style meter. Gameplay wise, these additions are actually really good and make the combat much more fleshed out than any other game in the series. But like, there's an issue already, because some of these things are so good, a lot of the other stuff is redundant. You really only need a few of these demolition shots, so you're far far better off just spamming like health upgrades and stuff than saving up for a new demolition shot. There's also more playable characters. They're even worked into the story this time. Like Buncha, yes, you can play as Buncha in the main game and you know, switch to him like in DMC5. The only issue is these were clearly tacked on after the fact and don't really flow anywhere near as well as Graves levels do. They're really short and are basically like, hey, would we fit Buncha into this section? Then they fit Buncha into this section. The final time you play as Buncha is right before he runs into the boss room to distract who knows who, and it's literally 2 minutes long, and I'm being literal here. You just kill a handful of guys in a corridor and then pop into the boss room, and then the cutscene starts where Buncha gets his shit rocked. He's a very fun character, but these levels are so clearly like, guys, we need a little something extra, let's make this at the 11th hour. And also, he has like half of what Grave has, maybe less than half when it comes to leveling up and unlocking new moves. You can also play as Quartz. Yay! Just what I always wanted. She has the most standout and god-awful design in this game, in this series, by far. So far and beyond the original vibe of the series. I really hate Quartz, okay? I mean, I don't hate her as a character, I just hate everything else about her. And her section is even more tacked on than Buncha's. She has like one level that has no bearing on the plot at all, and you just fight some monsters in a cave. Her playstyle is kind of interesting. It's a melee-focused playstyle in a series so heavily focused on shooting guns, but any interest she could have in her fighting style is thrown out the window with these just straight-up embarrassing animations. They look like they were made in a single day, and she has even less going on than Buncha ever. There's also DLC characters where you can play as Rocket Billy again, but not Buncha's brother, but you can also play as, get this, Harry McDowell. I don't know when they added this. I think this is newer. I think they did this after I played the game because I went back while researching this video and suddenly you could play as Harry McDowell. He looks just really messed up. Like, this is not what Harry McDowell looks like. His animations are even worse than Quartz. And like, why is he even here? He's just a regular ass dude. He can't be doing all this. He ain't winning these fights. Although I stand corrected because he survives all these fights because he has his iconic Harry McDowell sniper rifle as a special move. Oh yeah, remember that one? I said Quartz animations look like they were done in a day. His looked like they were done in like 15 minutes. Speaking of animation, this whole game has these kind of problems. 90% of the cutscenes are just super floaty, looking like they were mo-capped on a Kinect. Even the animations in-game are a bit stiff at times, even on characters like Grave, who are the focus of the game. But overall, he's fine. The biggest sin in this game is the lack of art style. They gutted this poor bastard. So now everyone is way more realistic, but still kind of anime-ish-y. Some characters like Quartz just look straight gross, like they have these big old anime eyes, but then a full set of teeth. The lack of art style sort of goes off to every aspect of the game, especially with the level design and enemy variety. You're fighting a lot of dudes who look like they come straight off like Unity Asset Store under like Sci-Fi Guard. The game is far, far easier than Overdose, but still is a little longer than it needs to be. So after a while, the new gameplay loop gets a little repetitive, but it's still pretty good. This game feels like an anomaly, like it shouldn't exist. I've said this before on my channel about a lot of games, but this is definitely one of them. Why is there a fully fledged sequel to a game that came out almost 20 years before it, to a game that was already obscure, and then this game comes out and it looks and feels like a fan work made out of toothpicks and Band-Aid? It looks like it's from an alternate reality where Gungrave was popular and then was given the Sega hire this man treatment, but we don't live in that reality now, do we? So what is this game? They knew the game looked like ass too, because they went on and gave you a cel-shaded filter you can apply to the game. Any game with a cel-shaded filter that can be turned on and off should probably be considered a red flag game. I think Gungrave G.O.R.E's History of Gungrave video that you can watch on the main menu is a perfect summary of Gungrave G.O.R.E. It's a hodgepodge mix of old and new. The video straight up draws and edits over clips from the anime, screenshots from the old game, mixes them with assets from the current game, and then just slaps it all together with really goofy and janky artwork that's all brand new. This video is really the essence of what Gungrave G.O.R.E. is about. It's a weekend at Bernie's using the corpse of a dead and forgotten franchise 3 people, including me, care about. That being said, I still like the game. I know I can be harsh, but I still like it for its effort, okay? It's trying. Give it some slack that I didn't. It's got some of the best gameplay, so If you really like the Gungrave formula, then this is probably the best one for you. One thing I won't give it slack for is that 90% of its soundtrack is just Subhuman and Devil Trigger ripoffs instead of the fun and jazzy soundtrack the series is known for. Like, seriously, this is ass. Anyway, let me leave you with some final thoughts. Gungrave is a very patchwork series, held together by the name of an artist no longer working on it. It's super hard to research anything about it because nobody cares, yet it's not hard to find. The anime is on Hulu, the newest game, and the VR games are on Steam, and the VR games are also on PlayStation. Yet no one seems to care. It's got a ton of inconsistencies, from the anime's ending, to how the dead men are made, to how seed even works in general, and where it comes from. Its games are weird and all have their own issues. Its anime is marred by pacing problems, but I just can't look away. This series feels like it's got secrets and potential hidden somewhere within it, but no one cares enough to find it. Like, while researching this series, I found out this series has its own Pokemon No You're Not the One character in it. Just no one cares to talk about it. In Gungrave 1, you can unlock a secret extra cutscene by beating the game on a certain diff, and then you get this weird, short, trippy cutscene with a magical anime girl, and there's no explanation for it. She holds no bearing on the plot or the game, ever, in the entire series, except for in one stage, stage 4 of Gungrave 1, where she can be seen on posters on walls with her face and text that just says, "Who?" with a question mark. We have some of the concept art of her, and she's just called Mysterious Girl, and that's it. What is that? I don't know, and you never will either, because as it stands right now, no one cares to find out, and it's uncertain if we'll ever get another game. It's just so weird that a series with multiple games and an anime connected back to a famous manga artist is just so jumbled together and so messy and so forgotten. So yeah, that's why Gungrave is Trigun's messy sibling. And with that, this long video is over. You should follow my art, social medias, and maybe commission me. And go play and watch some Gungrave. See you later.